Okay, so we're going to do a little topo study on this particular object, which happened to show up on the Discord. Somebody was curious how you would do this. So this is a great learning project. This kind of shape is actually pretty challenging, especially if you try to do it all as like one piece potentially. But we're going to break it down a little bit and go through the process here. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and change this to an image editor real quick, and I'm going to open that image up again so we always have it if we need it. Okay. And so one of the hardest things to do is this corner. This is not for the faint of heart. This is actually going to not really be a beginner-friendly tutorial either because of this. There's a couple different ways you could do it. You could start with a Boolean n-gon model, convert it to a sub-D. You could do a Boolean n-gon model, re-topo it into a sub-D mesh, or you could try to just model this and create it as sub-D from the start. The latter there is going to actually be the most challenging. If you're not used to working in sub-D, it's really hard to balance the curvature here from a cube and model in it. But Boolean n-gon is actually pretty simple. So like say we're doing this shape and we're going to do just the one edge for now. This would be something like a bevel, and you can use more or less faces here if you want, doesn't matter. More would probably be better if you're doing Boolean n-gon kind of workflow, right? The faces here, we're going to bevel these as well. Hit C to clamp it. A, M, merge by distance. Okay, so this is all that's really going on here. It helps to understand how these things are manufactured usually. In this particular case, I think this is created in a mold, right? But the mold in general probably used a CNC machine to cut it all out. So this is what some machinists would probably call facing. I don't know that for sure because I'm not a machinist, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is, creating some facing there. So you'd create like a cube, Boolean n-gon, boom. And you can see that's exactly what's going on with that particular piece, right? It's just being scraped away here at the surface level and exposing that kind of shape underneath, okay? Very simple. So Boolean n-gon, extremely fast, efficient. Definitely a good way to go about starting something like this. Not going to hurt you at all to use it. So shade auto smooth. Now, top here has a little bit of curvature to it. We can add that later. I'm mostly worried about preserving this shape here, and converting this over to a sub-D mesh is going to be problematic because there's just a bunch of stuff going on in here. So instead, we're going to do a retopo. It's not the answer you probably wanted, but it's something you might need to do. So I'm going to create a plane, go into edit mode, press A and merge by distance. Oops, sorry, merge by at center. Alt Z, press 1, and you'll see that we have a single vertex here. Okay. I'm going to use machine tools, use surface snapping. This is basically face project, medium point, line rotation to target. We need to turn on project individual elements still. Okay. And so the first thing I want to do with this single vertex is I want to press G. I want to move it. You can see right now it's freely moving. If we turn on snap, we can snap it where we need it to go. Just move it like so. Snapping to the Boolean shape right now, actually. Cutter. So I'm going to press H and hide that. Go back to this. Okay. G. Should snap there now, hopefully. Yep. And that's what project individual elements does. It makes it seem like it's behaving weird, but you can do groups of vertices and it'll snap to whatever's underneath it. So I just want to do a little bit of contour tracing here real quick. This side isn't that important. Matter of fact, it'd probably be better if I don't go all the way to the edge like that. But I press E and X and pull this all the way forward. Now we have an edge. I'll turn that off so we can see what we're doing. But get the idea, okay? So a little bit of contour tracing goes a long way because we know we're going to need probably a vertex there. We can set and merge by distance. Select that single vertex. I extruded the edge. That's what happened. I don't want to extrude the edge. Instead, I want to go through here like this. Okay. So you can set the resolution just by how far you move these. Right. We're going to do a subdivision, so it's probably better to have a little bit less. But this particular shape, we actually want it quite a bit. Is be a little bit more poly intensive, I guess. You can see what's going on there now. Okay. All right, and so this shape up here, determine what we want here maybe. Just going to go to the middle and then go across for now. We'll probably come back and work on that later. I have to do the same thing over here. You see the curvature here is a little bit more defined. We can see what's going on. Okay, so we want something like that. Oh, another 3 here. Probably want another 3 in line with that. We're going towards the center here for now. This one we'll put up to the center as well. Snapping is on, so it's snapping every time I move. Right? This one will likely start to go this way. Okay. You can see we're starting to get this like big gap here in the middle. This will flatten out if you're not careful, so you might have to balance this area a little bit. We'll get to that a little bit later, but you see what's going on. Very simple little process where you can use the wires underneath if you need to. Just turn on wireframes off and on when you need it right here. Just right click that, assign it to a shortcut. It'll save you some time. So, right. And it doesn't really matter where these edges are being created because we can always fill them how we need to later on. So, but these wireframes are extremely useful to tell which, like if you're lined up or not. It's a little bit disorienting, right? All right, so let's say like through here, these ones. Let's press F and F, F, right? Turn the wireframes off a second. So this one here to here, this one here to here. This might be creating double edges. Gotta be careful a little bit, but hopefully it's not. So you can see we can just press F, F, A, and merge by distance if needed. You can see I had a double somewhere. It's good that we did that. Pull that. You want to balance these things too, as much as possible. I'm gonna do a loop cut through here so we get this one going. You can see no matter what we do here, it wants to create like a little e-pole here, right? Not that's not an e-pole. It's going to at some point. It's going to want to create an e-pole. Let's see what I'm talking about when we get there. Oop, that did not work out. Let's take these two, press F, 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 F. There we go. You can see how those edges now allow that to happen a lot quicker. Not too bad. So we're only going halfway here. This is still not balanced too well, so we can kind of shift these around. We're really just trying to get the curve right. Pressing G and holding Shift same time so that it'll snap. Or we'll move it slower. Still snap there anyways, but you can see like some of this just needs balanced better. So yeah, do take your time to go through this and make sure everything's exactly how you want it. I'll pull that one back, add a loop cut. This whole edge, if I press G, we can move it. Press G and it'll snap to the surface somewhere in there. Okay. Might be a little bit off. I have to tweak it. A lot of tweaking for this particular shape. Want it nice and clean, right? That's the goal of subdivision modeling anyways. You have it close to perfect. That includes the curve here as well. So hold Alt while orbiting, you can jump into side views and stuff like that. Yeah, so most of this shape is kind of flat all the way through, right? So like if I press E and X and pull that back, G and X, we don't need these now. We instead have this going on. So that's more or less good to go there. This has to go all the way to the midpoint here, which is going to be maybe this edge, maybe the next one of these two, I think. So we do have to run all of these out still. It's going to do it in the top view. No, we'll have to do it in this view. We're going to have to balance this R and Z. That might work, it might not work for you. See here in a second. It's pretty close. I think we'll be all right with that. So you can see it's kind of shifting down though. Like I said, we're going to have to balance it. That's the reason why. But in general, this one, I think we could just align these top perhaps. This one we can align, maybe top. Okay, so if I press G, it'll snap back to the surface. Just a takeaway there for you. Use that if you need to. These ones look to be mostly okay, but you do want to pay particular attention to that curve because if you get it wrong, you're going to have a hard time creating the other side over here. All right, so you could use a mirror modifier for this. Just give you an idea what's happening here. If our origin point is at the center, which it is, we can easily have a mirror modifier on Z, and we can bisect it, and then that'll give us perfect symmetry, right? I'm going to use Mesh Machine from here on out, but that's how you would do that. You could just apply it. Mesh Machine has the Symmetrize tool, which is basically the same thing. You hit Alt X and move it down, remove redundant center, uncheck that, and then, so we can do that number like super fast like that, right? Really not bad at all. And so this whole section in here, we need to go ahead and start working it out as well. And I'm going to fill it real quick. Should go all the way to the back, press F, it's flat. Okay, remember, it's kind of shaved off, it's cut. You see, it's actually got a little slight issue to it. We're going to push it inwards a little bit. Alt A with machine tools, align right, makes it flat again. Okay, very simple. We're going to do a slight inset. Okay, now I'm going to press K, C. Oh, sorry, not K, C. K, A. Send it all the way to the back. Knife tool. Take these two, press J. And so we could press J on all those, or we can also use the knife tool here. Really up to you. At a certain point here, though, we should see quads form at the very front. Boom, like that, right? This is a little, it's not evenly proportioned, like not square enough perhaps, right? So we could add additional cuts in here, but you could also maybe get away with doing like another little inset of sorts, maybe like that. Maybe even do it up front. And so these ones will actually allow you to balance in this direction a little bit. If you needed to do that, or you could like align bottom or something like that. It will tug on this edge though. And I'm not too worried about how much topology we have in here right now, but there's a good odd chance we'll need more. I just want to point that out. In those cases like that, you know, you might need to even cut additional edges out like this, potentially, right? But a lot of times you can do more or less something like an inset where it collapses to a single. What will happen is when you symmetrize this, this will become a quad, right? Got it again. Okay. So, I did it the wrong way. Merge at last. There you go. That'll become a quad like that potentially. That's just one way you could do it, right? Not saying you have to do it. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna get rid of those because I don't really need them. All right. There you go. When this subdivides, we're gonna get a really nice mesh here. Shade it smooth, you'll see what I'm talking about. It does look a little bit janky in this area. You can always add an additional loop cut potentially. Might help it out a bit, but usually a little bit more subdivision goes a long way. Right. So you'll have to play with that and balance it however you see fit. This edge, you could potentially try to push that E-pole further back, but then it's on the curve and it might not work out well for you either. But this is probably the best topo you're going to get, I think, for this particular shape. Now, this needs to also go in the other direction, right? And so right now my origin point's right here in the middle. It's really good. for this what we're about to do. Sometimes it's not perfectly in the middle, so let's just move this in edit mode. You'll see that origin point. It's all shifted now and stuff. Okay, so here's the thing. This little modifier list add-on is what I'm using, right? It has the ability to add an empty for your modifier. And in the preferences of it, you can make the empty disappear when you apply a modifier. You can turn that on, and also you can make it parent the empty to the object itself. It can be quite useful. But we're going to use this add-on called modifier list. There's a link on my website, by the way. We're going to do a mirror. Okay. Usually mirror modifiers, we get this result. Pretty simple. But we want to use an object. We want to use an empty. There's a little button for it now. It says add gizmo or add empty, basically. So we do this. It shows up right at the origin point. This is kind of important. You need to make sure that it's pretty much centered in the middle, perhaps. But more importantly, we want to take this empty. We want to rotate it on Z. You can see what's going on here. We're going to rotate it, hold control, negative 45 degrees in this case. So we can press G, Shift Z. We can move it something like so. Okay. And you see how this is behaving? Like it's not quite meeting up until we're like right about there. If these overlap each other, it's not really a big deal. Okay. If we went to there, it would be wrong here. So something kind of weird happens here with this kind of arrangement is that it cuts it. Usually it's not the same as when you started, but it cuts it somewhere else a little bit different. Like it shortens the curvature or something. Anyways, with that out of the way, we can bisect it. When we bisect it, it only does the center. We can flip it, and now we have this arrangement going on. Okay. So if we were to go ahead and press the check mark, you'll see that empty disappears, and we get this result. Okay. We have to do a little bit of cleanup. It's not really that bad. This stuff like this, you can hold Alt, click it, Alt Shift, select it, and then Control X and just dissolve it. AM merge by distance. If you want to change that origin point, Control period, G, Shift Z. You can move it wherever you need it. You can also snap it incrementally. Turn that off for a sec. Absolute grid snap. And so you can actually snap it to the grid as well. Kind of figure out where you want this to be positioned, right? Because once you do that, Control period, you can add a mirror modifier or use symmetrize with mesh machine. And this number. Very simple, right? Okay, this middle section. A couple things we can do here. I'm going to press E and S, scale it in a little bit. Oh, maybe we don't want to do that. Let's press F. And let's do an inset and do this first, okay? Just a little bit. We don't need to go too far. The reason I wanted to do it this way is because, like, yeah, we can press E and extrude it. That's fine. But we can also press inset now and hold control and bring that up a little bit. You'll see there's a little bit of curvature here at the top of this thing. Just a slight bit. That's probably what's going on is it's doing something like an inset and coming up. So inset, hold control, right? Guessing that's what it's doing. I can't tell for sure. I don't think it's a solid object. I think this is two different pieces personally. But I'll leave that up to you to make that judgment call. I think it goes in like this, and this is like a cover to a laptop or a phone or something. I don't know what it is, but it's probably something like that if I had to take a guess. And so you want to subdivide this too. We're going to do another inset, delete the face, grab all this, Control F, and grid fill it. And it gives us this perfect topology in the middle. And guess what? We didn't do the bottom, but we can symmetrize because we're perfectly centered. If the back was supposed to look like this, you could do that, obviously. If it's not, of course, press F, inset a little bit, delete, and grid fill it, right? Boom. These corners you may need to work a little bit different, perhaps. You might want to add additional edges in the middle. There's all kinds of little things that can come into play with how well this turns out, but generally speaking, this is a good kind of work or kind of a good setup here now for most intents and purposes anyway. Maybe Alt S this and kind of change that a little bit. These edges here, you can maybe bevel them a little bit. Remember, subdivision, you only need 3 edges. So a level 2 segment bevel. right? And we can bevel this one as well. We can actually change this one to the shape. We can change it to 1. It just makes it perfectly like squared. Makes it real sharp basically on the inside there if we wanted that kind of effect. Okay, and we're not stuck here with this shape like this. This one on top is very similar. You can actually probably borrow this one. All right, I'm going to duplicate it. The edge, P, separate the selection. Go to the object. If we can get a hold of it, you might have to hit Alt-Z to get a hold of it. Go into edit mode, scale it in a little. Okay, press E, extrude up. Our normals are going to be messed up for a second, but all right. I'm going to press F and inset it. Like so, and hold Control, bring it up. Okay, a little bit of an issue here, I think. I have not got this curved exactly the way I need it. It's more apparent on this piece than it was down here, but it's not perfect. Okay, and so we might be able to get away with this, but we'll see what happens. There's an add-on called Edge Flow, right? The Edge Flow or whatever. If we select all of these, we should be able to use that add-on, right-clicking. It's called Step Flow, right? Once you install the add-on, free, once again, on the website. There's a link under resources. Sometimes this works, sometimes it won't. In this case, that did not work out too well. Let's delete this bottom edge real quick, or vertices in this case. Let's try this again. Let me use the cursor selector, so C, mouse wheel, so it's smaller. Let's set flow again with that and see if that helps. You can run it a couple times. Sometimes that helps out. You see, it's not perfect now, but it looks really good compared to what it was. And so this bottom edge again, we can E, Z, pull it down. All right, this whole top section. Actually, let's mirror this real quick. We want to do it now because if we don't, when we do this inset, it might mess this side up too. I'm not sure about that, but it might do it. You can also press GZ, adjust it real quick. Inset. Okay, inset, hold Control, push it down, maybe bring it in a little bit. And just like that, this shape is mostly done. So we can bevel this one. Oh, sorry. Let's inset it first a little bit. And now we should be able to bevel it. You can see it's that's interesting. It's doing it kind of backwards. Anyways, we'll do this real quick. Tiny little bevel. Do that on this side as well. And I actually change this to segments. Oops, sorry, not segments. The shape here, I'm going to change it to 0.5. I know in the previous video I said don't use 0.5. On some things you want to use 0.5. But generally if it's hard surface shape, normally 0.7 works better. All right, so there we go. Yeah, we're not going to do nothing back there. We would have to finish the back face on it. It wouldn't be a big deal. We could delete the middle. You can see the middle actually has a bisect through the whole thing now. So there we go. And delete all those. Control F, grid fill it. And it's good enough for now, although it's not perfect. You could try working this more, by the way, because some of these things you can actually push out like that. You see this one's pretty good. And so all of these will probably be able to, at least these segments here, you'd probably be able to pull out as well if you really needed to. Use the machine tools align feature. This is just going to keep everything nice and organized at least. You're going to have to figure out which way you align though. In this case, it's to the left. So if you ever wanted to clean that kind of stuff up, at least you know kind of how to do it. The only problem with this, it's not technically correct because it's going to pull this edge this way a lot heavier now. Okay. But because we added that little additional edge there. It's not too bad. You don't really notice it, but it looks nicer this way to some people. So you might want to do that, right? You can see we could also add more cuts through here as well, going in that direction. That would maybe be better for you. Personally, I don't mind it being curved, so I'm gonna push it back like that. Get it smooth. We almost don't even need to do much more to this. It's pretty much there. So here's where things get really interesting. If you're doing a subdivision model like this and you have other elements you need to add, you have this little cut in here with all these little cutouts, these little circles, right? This can be really problematic because every one of those you're going to have to push out and then flat or reduce the polygon count. You're going to try to get back to almost nothing so you don't have to modify the shape too much. Or you're going to have to take this up in resolution. And nobody wants to do that. It's just more polygons to deal with and too much work. Generally speaking, when I'm doing game models at least, I would make this a floater. Meaning I'm not doing all of that. I'm just going to create a new object, using machine tools I can duplicate and separate real quick, the smart face feature. But generally, I might create a subdivision mesh out of this, right? So this will become its own thing here at some point. And I'll probably do floaters. If you wanted to do all of this with polygons, Boolean Ngon workflow is honestly probably one of your better ways to go with this. You'd have to be really maniacal to try to approach doing all that with Subd, in my opinion. But not saying it's impossible to do it, but it's not going to be the most fun. I'll put it that way. So, see, let's put the origin point here at the center. So Shift S with machine tools to geometry, right? And so this may be a little bit misshapen. Something real simple like that as a floater. Like even if you just placed it close to the mesh, you can't even tell that's not part of it. So this is a potential you could utilize perhaps. Maybe set it up as a decal with a decal machine or something like that. And the same would happen with every one of those little dots. Those little dots are a real pain, by the way. So I have my cursor hidden, but I just moved it. So let's see. Let me turn it on real quick. If I did like a circle here, I'll do a 32-side circle, even though we probably don't need that many sides. Just going to use it anyways, but so we can start to see that these little dots becoming a thing. Pull it out a little bit. The normal's backwards, I think, or it doesn't have a normal yet. It doesn't have one, so press F. There you go. Inset. Full control. There you go. This subdivides, it's going to be really sharp. If this subdivides more, it'll be really sharp. There you go. Shade it smooth. Probably don't need to do it on this one as much, but shade it smooth, maybe bevel the back a little. So scale it in. I'm going to apply the scale real quick. It could influence your modifier. We're going to use an array. I'm going to pull it down. Trying to see how many we got in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we already know 5. I'm going to pull them up. Z is not doing nothing for some reason. Okay, because I rotated it. I'm going to pull it up. They're at a slight angle. I'm not sure the angle here yet. We'll figure it out later. Yeah, you can see they're going to be a little bit larger. I'm going to guess that it's like 1 that's going over by, I don't know, maybe by 2. No, 1.5 maybe. That still seems too much. 1.25. It's got to be 1 then, or not even. Now that I'm looking at it, it's more like this. So it's about halfway, right? Okay. Something like that. So you get that going on first. You'll have to manually cut some of these out probably later on, but you can set it up with the arrays real quick. And then you see we'll just array out this way now. Turn up the number of cuts. Yeah, because that could add up real quick. So that's one of the unfortunate side effects of modeling right now in Blender this way. I wish we had like an edit poly modifier or something, because all I need to do is just delete a couple of these after all that. I don't need to destroy it all, but unfortunately it looks like we're going to have to collapse it down. Not going to be very fun, but we want to make sure it lines up as best as we can though. So want these three right here at the end, like this, because I see three here. And then I want three up here as well, probably. Imagine it's symmetrical. So those arrays, I'm not going to delete this thing because I might actually need this again. So I'm going to duplicate it, hide one, use the other, and then we can apply the arrays on this one. Oops, in the right order. Okay. Now we can go back and we can say, like, for sure, we don't need this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. We'll get rid of those. I think that's what it's doing. Like it. Okay. And they're all floaters though. We'll make sure they're not intersecting like that. Okay. Close as we can get it for the most part, but not intersecting. Right. And so that should work out when you bake a normal map pretty well. Matter of fact, if you want to check to see how your normal map might look, use a mat cap, but turn to this normal one. And also turn off cavity, turn off outline. Okay, that's what your normal map will actually look like. So if these don't have enough depth to them, like they don't taper in enough, like if you did like a perfect extrude inwards, you wouldn't see any normal here. It would just be, so you have to do those little tapers, those little insets like that. Same goes for the top. That little line on the inside there, that would not be noticeable if we didn't taper it, most likely. Okay. On the outside here, there's almost nothing going on with that. This is a great way to preview your normals if they bake out. They should look almost identical to this, especially in like the orthographic views. You can see green channel is up right now. So we rotate, green channel is still up. The awesome mat cap, I like this one a lot. All right. May run into more difficult, challenging situations if you really have to sub-D model this thing. Like I said, you're going to be pretty maniacal to go through this and do all this like this as well. It's going to be pretty rough. You could still do this as a floater, technically. It's just it behaves a little bit differently. Basically the same process though. I think it goes up higher, doesn't it? Maybe just slightly. So yeah, we'll go down like, we'll separate that as a new mesh. It's still subdividing, but it's very, very tricky on this one because I'm going to hit Alt S and bring it out just a little bit. Got to pull it forward. I don't know where it stops back there, but we're creating that shape on top of this shape. So it's probably going to end up with something like this. I'm going to slide it down, move that forward. If this subdivides, we start to get that edge maybe. A loop cut here. We're going to have to probably do a cut here. This is, believe it or not, this is a little bit more forgiving in some respects because I don't know why it keeps trying to snap to things, but a little bit more forgiving in some respects because like now we can do like a K, C, A, boom, down like that. So this shape now exists. If we do a loop cut, drag it out to the back as well, drag that up here. This is kind of a real pain to do though. I'm just going to inset it, hold control and push it in. It's going to start to give us the shape we want here. Inset, hold control, push it in. Okay. So we get through that. There we go. Doesn't look too great right now, but we can always tighten it up with some loop cuts. Higher poly models like this, it's not such a big deal if you have little mistakes in it and stuff like that. So they don't usually show up quite as much. They can still show up, but especially if there's curvature in this area. But so far we're looking pretty good. I don't think we're gonna have any major issues. We can also maybe get away with deleting some of this. So if we were trying to keep that curvature underneath, if there was any curvature, might be able to get away with deleting some things like that. And that might work out like that a little bit. We got to do this side. It's almost like creating a trim, like a trim sheet or whatever. Only downside of this is we can't really work this quite as much as we probably want to. Like we can't really just bring it in like that and do all that nonsense. But it still works. One of the benefits of modeling this on the actual model is you technically could do that. It would create some really harsh normals, but it'd be more possible than this, right? If we were to try to do that here, we might have to push it all out a little bit. You can see when we do that, it doesn't really like it, I guess. Easiest way to put it. And also you might get ray misses and stuff going on the side. Yeah, very tedious little process here, right? Personally, I don't like this interior doing what it's doing. So I'm gonna actually inset it real quick. Yeah, that's a very sharp arrangement there. So maybe not the best of ideas, right? To always do floaters. So how would you do it otherwise, right? That's the fun part. I would probably cut the shape. Let's try doing a cube right here. So we'll do a boolean here. And we get the curve where we want it, about how big we want it. Okay. And so there's a couple things I want to happen here. First up, I want this is one piece, and I want what's inside of this is one piece. Okay. So when you use hard ops, you do the Shift Q menu, and do a intersect boolean or a slash boolean. I'm going to do the slash boolean real quick. I know this is terrifying doing a boolean on a sub-D model we've already worked so hard on, but the slash boolean here gives us two pieces. So this is what's going to happen. Before the subdivision, we can apply the boolean. You can see it's already messing up our sub-D though. And, so we're going to apply the boolean. Generally, when you create this shape, you need to think about the edges, how many edges you've used to create it. Okay. And this boolean will get applied above this. We're going to turn the subdivisions off a second. Do this. Okay. So we can see that curve. If we can replicate it, we'll forward slash on this one real quick. We're going to do it on this piece first, but a lot of times we can work it out, basically. Little points that are very familiar to us. So we got a little bit of extra up here with an n-gon. So, but overall, the edge is really clean, so it's not too bad, right? Let's do the same on this one real quick and just mimic that same kind of setup. You see it's a little different over here. Not too much, but it's a little different. We're going to move the inside section so that it's like that. This one will go to there. That one will go to there. Okay. So more or less the same setup. We just have to just be mindful of what we're doing here. This particular edge, there's 3 vertices. This is a reduction point, right? So we can start to reduce, go down this way. And same thing would happen down here, potentially. If you ever have it snap to centers, it's the shift key that does that. So just hit shift and it'll turn off. But that's pretty good, not too bad. We're going to run it out to the other side. Same here at the top. Okay. This section here, I know it looks scary, like it's going to be a lot of work. Select all of that. Just hit inset. Okay. So this should, if we symmetrize it real quick, we should get a center point. Yeah. It should be perfect here on the bottom still, hopefully. It may become misaligned if you symmetrize it, but in our case, it's okay. And so there we go. Check that out. We have a nice little cut, huh? If we turn subdivision back on, extremely sharp. And this edge might be better if we, something like that, because it is subdivision after all, right? Like this edge here, these ones, we might just get rid of them and do a bevel here with a single cut in the middle, change the shape back to 1. That's going to keep it extremely sharp. This is unbalanced. We're going to press GG twice, slide it, hit E, and you'll see if I hit F, you see that little vertex at the end of the slide show up. That's going to be your edge slide, but it's going to be even. So you press E and then F to flip back and forth. Which edge it's even with, that one or this one over here. But that's what pops up, and then there we go. That's like super sharp now. I don't think you can make a sub D model sharper. It's actually not a good thing for baking normals. It's going to be too sharp actually. But it's done. It's there, and so that's that, right? Now we had the other shape there to work on, where it cuts inwards. Once again, you can use booleans, guys. It's really not the end of the world. Do that. In this particular case, I don't even know if we need to do a boolean. We might just do a knife cut. I'm going to press K, C, cut through here real quick, KCA. This one, I'm going to grab Alt-Shift-S, skew it, pull it back where I need it. Okay, and all of this was more or less cut out. So we could try to fix this and repair this and spend a bunch of time here. I don't know if I want to do all that. Instead, I think I'm just going to delete it. Call it a day. No, we're not going to call it a day. The heck is that? Why did it not cut through? Oh, I didn't skew those. Okay, that's what happened. Cut it down to the bottom. Cut it across. It'll come back on the front side at some point. Yeah, you see. Back up here probably. We'll leave that like that for now. So now we can just go through here to be able to dissolve these first. Could have cut all the way through. It tried to cut all the way through, but anyways. I'm going to hit K and then Y so that it goes over to there. You can use X, Z, and Y while using the knife tool, which is fun. Let's see if that'll actually line up now. For the most part, it did. I'm going to delete it anyways because I can just take these little segments here and line them like this. You can see we're going to have a little bit of an issue in here, apparently. It needs to be flat. It needs to be planar, like that. I'm going to connect this real quick. Connect that. We'll start with that. We'll see where it goes. Press F, F. Okay. This looks like an excellent spot for a knife cut all the way through here. That'll go up to the top. That'll go to the top. There you go. That'll combine there. A couple additional edges that did not seem to make it all the way. Not a big deal. We're going to cut them across this way. Take that, merge it there. So this additional edge here, we might need it, we might not. Let's see what we can do. Where's it go? Does it go to the back? It does. I don't think we need that one. I'm going to dissolve it for now. We might need it later, but it's going to be easier to work without it, I think. Some of this needs to just align left, maybe. For the most part, that's pretty solid, right? So solid, in fact, that this does not subdivide good here. Do that. See what happens. Okay. This edge kind of wants to do something like that, maybe. We still need that loop cut right there. EF. Boom. You see, that's getting ridiculous now, right? That's a lot of work. All the way back here as well. I feel like I need to do an inset. I don't want to, but I feel like I need to. This will actually work. A lot of these you can merge at center, dissolve that, right? Does require some cleanup. Sub D is not, it's just one of those things. It's not the fastest, but a lot of people feel it's going to always give them the best results possible. We're not going to combine those just yet. I don't know yet. Might need them. Okay. This one, on the other hand, this one can go. It's 3. Merge to 4. Take a look at that. Okay, merge that out. Yeah. This will likely go down at some point like that. It looks like there's another vertex here that's hidden. Double edge or something's going on. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Little edge here. That. Going on back here. I'm not going to finish out the whole shape here in the back, but you get the idea of where this is going, right? It's really simple in nature. Once you start understanding how to work these edges like this, it's not that bad. It takes time. It's not hard. It's the same process, the little quad diamond shapes and reductions and all that fun stuff. I made a lot of videos on Sub D already, so if you're really confused about this, what you could do is you can just go watch some of those videos, go over how a lot of it works, but can't watch it for you, or do the work for you anyway. These, like right here, you could probably even reduce these there. Can't do that on every edge, but a lot of them you can. So if I want to cut that across, I can even reduce this right here by doing a redirect. I could probably work it out to the back somewhere and then connect this edge to like this edge or something. Connect the edge to itself, basically. All right, and round we go until we get a perfect topo for this piece. We still got to do the other one exactly the same way for the most part. It's a real pain, but you can see this is subdividing a lot better now, right? Maybe a little too good. Some areas, like right here. This end pole being right there, it might be better on the side. If that's the case, you extend these through, and eventually you'll combine them down here somewhere. Those will be quads like that. That. See? And wrap it over the edge, basically. It's kind of a fun one. But we're not going to get too caught up in that. I need a loop cut over here. This is a N-gon right here. This particular N-gon, I think I'm just going to slide it down. Yeah, it happened to work out that way, huh? Let's take that and get rid of that for a second. We'll just slide it down like that. Let's see what happens. That's not bad. I don't know why that worked, but it did. Let's do that. I feel like that stretching up that way is not a good idea, but it seems to be working, so I don't know. So we can add a loop cut here. Oh, before we go too far, let's get this one split all the way down the side. There you go. Boom, we can dissolve the middle. Now we should have quads. We should be able to do a loop cut. Loop cut. Loop cut. We're kind of cramming all the focus into the corners. Something you tend to do with a hard surface sub D model, but not necessarily the only way to do things. A lot of times balancing them out to perfect little squares extremely important. You can always do that later as well. So that way you can potentially sculpt on it with like a multi-res or something like that. Um, I'm feeling lazy here in the back, so I think I'm gonna see if I got everything I need real quick. I know there's an edge we sent backwards. Yeah, 2 of them. I'm just gonna bring them all the way to the back so I can work on that one side. I don't have to worry about this side anymore. That should all be mostly good. These 2 join, by the way, by the looks of it, which is great. I don't gotta screw around with it. These 2 join. You even have to do this backside? No, not if you can't see it. So kind of redundant. It's like extra work we're creating for ourselves right now. Only reason I'm doing it is so that way you kind of see what's going on here. So I don't need that edge, so I'll just pull that one back. There you go. That way, if you ever have to do a full object and work it to the backside, you'll know how. By inset, you see what's happening? They're trying to converge already right here. They're doing that in every corner. On this particular shape, that's what's going to happen. So you can merge at center, right? We'll work all this other stuff out here in a second. So merge at center. This is not merged yet, but we need to do that. Dissolve the middle, dissolve the middle, dissolve the middle, and dissolve the middle. Delete this. See if it grid fills. If it doesn't, it means we got the wrong kind of topo going. It does grid fill, but we need to tweak it and adjust it. The wrong setup. Almost got what I want out of it, but not quite. Very close though. I feel like I'm missing something. So I'm not going to do the grid fill just yet. I'm going to dissolve that though. I'm going to press F and just fill it. I know for a fact I want that like that. And a lot of this stuff, we're going to end up just probably sending it across or up. Kind of depends, I guess. So we should be able to get that all the way up there. This should be able to go all the way up there. So we got this one extra vertex, perhaps. So it creates a big n-gon right now. Let's do this. Let's do that. I think that's going to work. We'll see in a sec. Oh, we got an n-gon down here too. Oops. See what we can do. We'll come back to that. Yeah, that's not what I wanted. I really want this to do something like that, I think. But the moment we do that, you see what's going on. You can take a triangle n-gon thing like this. You could probably run out a point, go this direction, then go this direction. We're going to connect it to here. We're going to bring this one straight down to here, connect it to there. I know it's probably one of the most maniacal moves you can make, I think. It's like doing another inset, but that didn't give us a quad here. So let's try just doing this. That's technically a quad, right? Quad, 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 quad. It's, yeah, it's kind of insane, but see, now we have like perfect edge flow too. Hopefully, all the way through. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Anyways, that's how you check it. You just do some loop selections and see what you get. Up here, we still have an issue though, apparently. Of a triangle, not a huge ordeal. merge, solve that one. We could work this out somehow. Pretty sure. I don't really want to, but there. Well, that's a triangle there now. Whoops. And round we go. This is going to happen all the time. Remember that little split I did before? We're kind of doing it here. Sort of. It's almost right. Might be able to get rid of that edge. Actually. No, we can't. I'm sure we could reduce it somehow coming over here. Anyways, you'd find a way to reduce it and then you'd work it out at some point, basically. It happened. Or in this case, check this out. We can do a redirect. I just seen a possible fix here. So remember we had that little issue down here? That would dissolve all the way up to there. Merge that to there. And that could be a quad. It's still, it's a really bad quad, but just giving you ideas on what you can do, right? Like you can take that and wrap it maniacally all the way around. Maybe you don't even need this edge now. You could, in theory, collapse all these as well at some point. So we got 3 edges here. Check this out. 3. So you do a 3-to-1. A 3-to-1 is like half of an inset. Check this out. UK, cut, 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 cut. Like that. That's a half an inset. Here, here. Oh, that one happens to loop all the way around, but basically we would have been able to dissolve all of that at one point, and that would have been your 3-to-1 there. Not a big deal, right? We did that. You see we get a little triangle there in the middle. We can also do a loop cut there. That turns that into a quad, blah, blah, blah. So forth. We'll spend all day screwing around with topology. It's called solving, and you can literally solve all kinds of things, right? You can come up with a different solution for every mesh like 12 times over. So it's like, it might be a more correct topology ultimately, but you're going to have to figure it out. It's going to take a little while. So, like this particular area, these seem like they almost want to shift backwards a little. Also, maybe even collapse somewhere in here. Get a little slight deviation I don't like, so could try doing loop tools and flatten. I don't know if this will work good here, but there you go. Boom. Worked out. Who knows? All right, so be careful with your mesh is all I'm getting at. And we still have to do this inside section, right? Hopefully this one goes a little bit easier. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to start with the inset. Yeah, that'll work. I don't know how many edges I need. Let's start with that. Or I think we can do a join here. I'm going to pull those apart first. Okay, no, we're going to combine them. Probably should have pushed that down further, but we'll do it like that for now. So this will go to there. Yeah. 4 was a good guess. Actually, it worked out. Not plan on that. It's skewing pretty heavily towards the middle, so it's probably not a good idea, but let's see what we can do over here real quick. These ones will merge at the last one there. Merge those at the last one. Obviously, this, as good as it is, it really needs to come over more closer to this, maybe. Oh, no. We'll fix that in a sec. This whole shape here might have to inset. We're going to figure out the middle in a second, but we're going to join these. Join those. We can dissolve this edge. This is a lot of fun. Pull that to there. Okay, and see. I'm going to join these for now because I know I'm going to do that at some point. So those are all quads. They're mostly quads, except we got this little issue here. Worst case scenario, you run into this issue. All you're going to do is another inset. Join them up. Probably dissolve those. Merge that to there, merge that to there. Merge everything by distance real quick. And so that'll be a pretty solid setup. We got a little weird shading issue going on. Oh, these n-gons up here. Yeah. We got to sidewalk this whole thing. Different ways you can go about doing that. Personally, I'm not wanting to do a bunch of manual stuff, so I want to do knife cut. Knife tool is great for learning, but sometimes you got to learn to rely on like insets and extrudes and stuff. Otherwise, you'll be forever and a day working with the knife tool. It can be like a crutch in some ways, like it's going to slow you down potentially. So you got to be careful with that one. I know I need some space around this thing, and I don't guarantee this is going to work, but it's a good odd chance we can do an inset, hit O, and we can do an outset. And you can see it shifted everything a little bit out to the sides there. We got some weird fighting going on. Not ideal, maybe, but probably fix this and clean it up. Let's see if I can delete that face. Get rid of that first of all. Let's delete this face too. Press F there. This one might have been more problematic. We'll see what happens. Yeah, you see, well, no, that actually worked out. Not too bad. This is going to need an E-pole right up here, I think. So we're going to have to go across the shape with that loop and maybe a couple of these. I don't know yet. We'll find out. So we'll press F here. You know what? We'll just do it like that. Don't necessarily need to do anything special. Back here, let's delete that one real quick. I'm going to add a loop cut here. Bam. When this subdivides, see if it's working. It's mostly working. We need additional edges right here. And we didn't finish the bottom, obviously. So I'm going to delete these real quick. Just like we did the top, basically. Oh, you know what? We can symmetrize this. We don't have to do all that nonsense. Symmetrize it downwards. Be careful with symmetrize because it's as great as it is. Sometimes it symmetrizes the wrong way, and then you move on 20 steps and you can't control CPAC. You're screwed. It's a cool tool, but it's you gotta be careful with it. I just want to get these going to a point. I can. Not having much success with that, but we're trying to. That's gonna be a yeah. We should have just left it the way it was. It'd be too much for it. Add a loop cut here for this edge. Oh, actually, it didn't work out too bad at all. Nice. Might want a couple in here just to hold that in position a little bit nicer. You see, like a little extra one. Same with right here. You see how this E-pole is going zoop. It's all empty space. That's what usually does it. You can add an edge here. It'll hold it tighter. But then now these are both stretching in. Sometimes just filling the gaps can be useful. But if I forward slash, I was not planning on doing this video this long, but you can see how much a topo study goes, like how far it can go, like how many things you can take into consideration here. If you wanted to do like an absolutely superb model, 100% accurate or whatever. Obviously, just like we cut in that side, if you were to cut these in, you'd still have a heck of a time doing that. But um, last but not least, I had turned off outline and cavity. Turn it back on for a second just so the edges pop a little bit more. Sometimes this also helps you identify like little weird nuances. Like I didn't see that before. So maybe there is an actual issue here I don't know about, or maybe it's not flat enough. Or in this case, it actually looks like there's it's not flat enough, right? So I can go through here. Probably just in this area. Loop tools, flatten it maybe. Might get away with doing that. Sometimes you got to flatten to a certain angle or edge. In this case, it might be like this edge. So what we can do is we can use active element. Active element. We should be able to use, go back, normal. We should be able to do SZ and 0. See, it's trying to line up to that other edge there. Sometimes works out pretty well. I think this made this come up a little bit too high. You can just slide it down a little bit. It probably won't hurt it too much anyways. Or maybe leave it up even. Maybe it looks better with it up. All right, so we'll leave it. Fade smooth. There's a weird thing happening here, shading-wise. Probably just from it being up like that. Also, that E-pole being right there probably isn't the best for it. Sometimes you do need to like do a double sidewalk to just push that E-pole back. So that E-pole will go back here. Oh, here. Yeah. That'll actually work out a lot nicer. Those double sidewalks come in handy. Oh. Now you're in business, right? So I'm gonna let you guys do the rest of this. I'm gonna dissolve that. But a whole shape like this can be fairly time consuming. Obviously, there's no need to do this if you don't have to. And look, if you were to use a Boolean n-gon and you did a quad remesh or you did a remesh and then used corrective smooth, that whole remesher workflow, that would work fine for most things. It's going to be poly heavy until you do a decimate, but it still works out just fine. It's going to give you pretty much close to this same result, more or less. It's not really that much different. So, and yeah, so hopefully this answers a lot of questions about subdivision modeling. This is definitely more of that kind of advanced territory where you're really just working mesh as hard as you can. You have to know how to balance it, how to push it around, how to redirect it, reduce the amount of edges, where you can get away with using just bad topo. Sometimes that's needed. Like you can do bad topo on the back of something potentially, like if it doesn't affect the front. You could delete the back technically if it's not seen when you're baking normal maps at least. Not gonna be a big deal. So non-planar or non-manifold face or non-manifold objects works fine, right? In a lot of situations. So, but this was a long video. This was a long time to just work this one little piece. Once again, subdivision takes the longest. It's not always the best answer to all of the problems. So you can see I forgot to do the slant here. And so that seems like it's going to be a huge problem, but it probably won't be. Let's take both of these objects into edit mode real quick. We'll grab all those edges right there, Control Alt Shift S, and see how that works out. Yeah, so it's still fairly flexible too sometimes if you need it to be. That's a fairly complicated shape to make. Sometimes you got to do two models at the same time too. So you get that going. You can see that edge doesn't quite sit as well as it could now. This area. So this one would probably go back there, and that one would probably go out there like that. So this would eventually dissolve. This would dissolve. Oh, yeah, we can go across. No, we can't. All right, so I need that edge there. I can't dissolve it, so we'd have to figure out how to stop that from occurring. We get down to the other side. Let's forward slash. All right, yeah. So we'll leave it here at this on this part because I'm probably about to fail miserably at this. I have a feeling we'll have to do like a reduction here. That will want to dissolve, and now I don't want to dissolve that all the way, but we will. Got an idea. Sometimes you can find answers to problems. We still got that triangle there. Triangles aren't necessarily a bad thing either, by the way. You get away with using them sometimes. That should allow me to do a loop cut. And I got a spiral now. Awesome. Like I said, I was about to fail miserably. It's only going to get away with this for so long before I run into a problem. I don't know if I can combine these like that. That seems like a bad idea. And try to do a loop cut. Yeah, that's a valid way of doing that, I guess. Like you can shift this back that. Oh no, you can't. That's a quad, that's why. All right, I'd have to think about that one. On the back side, it doesn't matter, right? This really wants to go this way anyway. So much. Anyways, so yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Okay, and good luck on your projects, all right? This is not for the faint of heart, right? Anyways, check you out on the next one. Take care.